So I'm going to present on a trip that me and three friends did in 2017 through the Mackenzie Mountains, a pack raft trip. So on this trip, we covered 10 different rivers, did 3 portages, one of which was probably too long. We budgeted 21 days. We got done a few days ahead of schedule. What you're seeing here is the very first river. A good friend of ours dropped us off here. This is the Little Nahanni River, really famous river that runs through Natsicho National Park. Kind of a steep, bouldery river that Parks Canada says you should take 5 to 7 days to paddle. Based on our experience with other Parks Canada documents, we budgeted a day. We didn't want to carry enough food to take that long, so we budgeted a day, and that's how long it took us to do it. Well, 2 half days really. So this is kind of one of the first rapids on the river. It's called the Step, quite a famous rapid. This is at relatively high water, so it blows out a little bit. But this was kind of learning how the boats work with as much weight. Typical trip for us would be more like 7 to 10 days, which is 15 to 20 pounds of food. But on the trip of 3 weeks, we had around 40 pounds of food. So the boats were getting pretty heavy. This is our first camp on the river, beautiful spot. That's going to be kind of a theme the whole way through. There's really no photos of not beautiful spots. Felt really good to be in this camp. We'd been planning this trip and a few other trips all winter. Kind of the process for us is sort of a bit of one-upmanship, coming up with more and more bizarre routes. Some of them are just obviously ridiculous, but pieces of those stick, and eventually we piece something together that had these big portages and linked a bunch of different drainages together. And even coming up with a trip is a real art, figuring out high resolution imagery, and then there's always canyons that are too deep or there's cloud cover. So you marry that with the 1 to 50,000 topos, which are sometimes not terribly reliable, and trying to decide if the river you're going to spend days getting to is actually going to be paddled or you're just going to walk down beside it. So we did pretty good on this one. We've done less well on other trip plans for sure. After we get off the Little Nahanni, we hit the South Nahanni for a few kilometers. And then we kind of hit our first portage. So we left the South Nahanni, and the mountain you can see on the upper left. The idea is to get onto that ridge, and we'll take that ridge to an unnamed river, which is a tributary of the Broken Skull River. This area, evocative names are a real theme. So there's going to be lots of interesting names for rivers and creeks. So this is kind of the first time we hefted these packs up. We're about 20 pounds over the recommended weight for these packs. You can see we got things strapped on everywhere. So it was a buggy, sweaty, sort of miserable climb up into the Alpine. So this is the camp we arrived at. We'd hoped to go over the top that night, but we were pretty slow getting up. We were a little slow getting going. So we hit this camp. There was no water there, but fortunately it poured in the middle of the night. We were able to collect several liters off our...
Paul? Sorry, Paul. It's Erica. I'm so sorry to interrupt. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, your sound is cutting in and out a little bit. Are you wearing headphones or talking directly into the computer?
I'm talking right into the computer. You know, the AC just came on and turned off. Is it more clear now? It just turned off.
I can hear you a bit better. Are you able to just sort of isolate that sound? That'll be great.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no, sorry. I'll speak up as well in case that helps. So this is our first camp after leaving the South Nahanni. You can see the South Nahanni in the background. And we're on our way to an unnamed river. So we moved pretty slow from there. We still have really heavy packs. We're working our way up this ridge and just beautiful country, as you can see. This is kind of just a gratuitous shot. There was no real reason for this other than it's a nice photo.
Your sound has cut out again. I'm sorry, Paul.
I'm not sure what the issue is there, Eric. I've never had that problem. There's no else is on right now.
Oh, all right, no problem. We'll carry on then.
Okay, yeah, sorry. So here we are. We're about to cross into the next drainage here. And so now we've dropped down to the unnamed river. So our scouting for this river are just through data sources you get some qualitative information in terms of the width, and you kind of know generally like 8-meter wide river, you should be able to paddle, but you don't get the qualitative stuff. Like, is that bit of white just a rapid, or is it there are a bunch of boulders in there? So we did what we call boat kicking, just moving down the river. At least it's not on the boats aren't on our backs anymore. And kind of going through this stuff was really slippery through here. But pretty soon the river gathered enough water and got it into one stream, and we were able to paddle pretty much continuously from this point down. And on the Unnamed River, we actually saw a lot of wildlife. We saw several moose and many caribou. It was a really, really pleasant paddle from here down. It was kind of like class 2+ down to the Broken Skull River. So a bit of information at this point. So this is Dylan. So we're on our way to a river called the Black Wolf River at this point. We thought we were going to be the first people heading in there, but we found out from Parks as we were getting ready that there was a group of Americans going in ahead of us. And so they were passing through Whitehorse. So we met with them and had a beer and talked about our respective trips, which had some overlap, but quite a bit unique. And they asked us if we wanted any intel after their trip. We said, no, we'd kind of rather go in there and see it for ourselves. That Black Wolf was kind of our primary objective. But one of our group members snooped, and they'd turned out they'd ripped a boat in there, and that kind of put him off going in. And then one of the other group members didn't want to go as well as a result. So that left just Dylan and I to go in. So the upside for the two of us was we got to leave 30 pounds of food each with the other two guys, who then paddled down the Broken Skull further to kind of wait for us at the mouth of Black Wolf Creek. So this is Dylan and I working our way into Black Wolf Creek up Grizzly Creek. Grizzly Creek just comes out of the hillside right where this photo is, a really neat spot. And then we just go over a little pass to arrive at Grizzly Lake, which is one of the sources of Black Wolf Creek. So just a beautiful spot in the Alpine, surrounded by mountains. So we were a little nervous that night because the Black Wolf has a lot of tight canyons that we couldn't really sort out through the imagery, and the 1 to 50,000 topos were just a bunch of tight contour lines. They weren't reassuring in any way. So here we're starting down the river. This is kind of the easier upper sections, a nice way to ease into things, and more beautiful country. So this is Dylan going down the low volume portion of the river. A little bit of shale up here, or sharp rocks at least. Kind of soon after this photo, the valley closed in a lot. And we basically stopped taking photos because with two people, our safety system basically means we're both in the water all the time, and you're not taking your hands off your paddle to take too many pictures. So basically all the pictures on the Black Wolf from here on out are when we're scouting rapids, which we mostly boat scouted, so there aren't too many photos. Here's one of the exceptions. This is kind of the first constriction we came to, caused by a landslide. So we thought at first that we'd have to walk around this, but we got out and scouted it pretty thoroughly, and it turned out that we thought it was good to paddle. It was really pushy, and the rocks were quite sharp. So we learned some good lessons in this first rapid that probably served us well down later. The river was pushier than we thought it would be, but we both got through, but not as easily as expected. So we used that information lower in the river. The river has a lot of gradient, and it was kind of constantly, as you came over the top of a rapid, it always looked like it was falling off really steeply below you, but it was mostly manageable. So that day kind of progressed with us just boat scouting rapid after rapid, not really very much talking, just eye contact type stuff. Every now and again, we'd take a mental health break because it was a little unnerving, not knowing what's coming up. Here's another one of the scouting spots above a larger rapid. And pretty soon we ran into this canyon, which was a really good reason to get out of the river and call it a night. So this is the next morning. We camped at the head of this canyon, pretty frazzled. This was a clear no-go. There was a class 6 waterfall at the start, which is well above our pay grades. So we were happy to take a walk around this thing. Again, just beautiful area. Looked over the edge of the canyon a few times, and it was a pretty cool spot to be. This is towards the bottom. This is a piece we paddled after the exit of the canyon. Another short portage here of the big pour over. This scout, I think this scout took us 2 hours or something like that, and before we could actually see this rapid. And then by the time we saw it, and it was fine. But it's just, pack rafting is a bit unique in that you just can't go into a canyon. I mean, it's the same as canoeing, but probably there's a lot better information for canoeists about the condition of rivers. But if you don't have any intel, then it's basically you're taking your life in your hands if you don't look first. So we spent the 2 hours clambering around in our dry suits to get a look in here. This is towards the bottom of the Black Wolf. So in the distance, you can see the Vampire Spires, which are famous mountains above the South Nahanni. So we're about to hit the Broken Skull, which very quickly hits the South Nahanni. And at the mouth of the Broken Skull, or the mouth of Black Wolf Creek, we'll be meeting up with Paul and Sky again. So here we are back on the South Nahanni the next day, and we're way more relaxed, floating, chatting, eating snacks, decompressing from the previous day for Dylan and I, sleeping a little bit. People keep an eye out so you don't drift into an eddy and just get stuck there for the day. And so we weren't on the South Nahanni for very long, which is fortunate because pack rafts aren't great on flattish water. That's an understatement for sure. So here we are at the mouth of Hell Roaring Creek. So this is going to be the start of our biggest portage. We're going to go 100 kilometers up Hell Roaring and Flood Creeks, and then we'll hit the Thundercloud Creek drainage and walk down that until we can catch enough water to paddle again. Oh, sorry, I've lost the ability to move forward somehow. Stand by. Okay. I might just have to back out and get back in here. It won't move forward.
Paul, do you actually put gear inside the rafts? Did I see zippers on some of them inside the tubes, or no?
Yeah, that's right, Alex. Sorry, I should have mentioned that the all of our stuff pretty much, except that what we need during the day, is inside a watertight, an airtight zipper. And so at the start of this trip, I think our boats were 80 pounds, 75 to 80 pounds, and they get pretty light by the end. But yeah, it makes a big difference in the stability of the boats. I might just have to back out of this and reshare. I'm not sure what the issue is.
Yeah, Paul, also your mic is, so someone in the crowd knows about highly directional mics. So if you can make sure you're staying still and pointing your face towards your microphone, that would probably help with the sound as well.
Okay, I'll point it right at me. Okay.
Are you speaking right now?
I'm speaking again now. Is the screen progressing again? Is it on a new photo? It is on my screen.
No, we have what I see is two folks carrying their packs away from the river.
Okay, let's try this again.
Maybe stop sharing and restart sharing.
Yeah, sure, I will. Stop sharing. Okay, let me know if 3 people in a creek show up.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
We're good.
Right. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened there. Okay, so we're on Hell Roaring Creek again, and we're heading up. Is my mic better now?
Yeah, it sounds like we can hear you a bit better. So keep whatever you're doing, keep doing that.
Okay, I'm going to point this at that. All right. So we're continuing up Hell Roaring Creek here. We're probably 20 kilometers into the portage. Here we've crossed out of Hell Roaring Creek over a divide, and we're into just about to enter Flood Creek. And a perfect time to enter something called Flood Creek, of course, is right when a thunderstorm comes in. So we're just entering the canyon when a thunderstorm rolls in above us. And it's pretty tight in there. So we weren't really excited to be in there. So we got out as quickly as we could. As you can see here, we also came to a waterfall that wasn't a great idea to go up. So we got out of the canyon and then felt much better about things again. Another beautiful spot. So this camp is at the head of Flood Creek and very close to the divide between Flood Creek and Thundercloud Creek. So Thundercloud Creek will be the next creek we paddle, but we have to walk about, I think 20 kilometers downstream before we'll hit enough water to paddle. So this particular night, although it looks beautiful, was probably the heaviest rain I've ever experienced, and it continued into the next day. And as a result, we got a fast ride out of the mountains. We had about 40 hours of really heavy rain. So the next 5 rivers, so this is Thundercloud Creek at about 80 cubic meters a second. And you can tell it doesn't look super creaky here. So at some times we were making 20 kilometers an hour on the creek in the next river, which is the Silverberry. Here's a rapid on the Silverberry, which was the second of the rivers on this drainage. And the next river, this is one of the canyons on the Raven's Throat River, which is the Silverberry flows into. And this is the exit of another canyon. So I don't have the video posted here, but we have a really interesting video of being in one of these canyons at high water and a whirlpool just opening up and taking one of the guys straight down and out of sight. He popped back up very quickly, but it was relatively alarming for sure. I'll say a few things about gear here. I'm not sure how many people know about pack rafts. When I first started doing this talk, pack rafts were still a pretty new thing, but I don't really know how common they are south of 60 these days. In Whitehorse, they're kind of like cars now. Well, not like cars, but they're very well known. But this is kind of the setup that we use. We use just a pyramid shelter that we can pitch super high, and we just overturn our boats and to sleep on them so we don't have to carry thermarest. The reason for that is our packs are about 75 pounds, as I mentioned. So 40 pounds of that is food. You need 20 pounds for a whitewater boat setup, 10 pounds for your boat, and then your paddle and your PFD, your safety gear. Then you're sleeping in shelter is another 5 to 8 pounds. So that leaves you like another, I don't know, 5 to 10 pounds for everything else. So your clothing, your toiletries, your cookware, etc. So we try to cut wherever we can as a result. So no thermarest, you just sleep on your boat upside down. It also means that you're not able to bring spare spoons. So if you set it down on the beach and it looks like a rock, you got to make one of your own. This is, I believe, we're on our second to last river here. This is the Raven's Throat runs into the Redstone. So this is on the Redstone. Water levels have started to drop at this point, so we're slowing down. We're also basically out of the mountains at this point. You can see the real changes. For anyone who's been along the Mackenzie, this is starting to look a lot like the Mackenzie River at this point. So we're in the lower reaches of the Raven's Throat at this time. Sorry, not the Raven's Throat, the Redstone. This is a camp on the Mackenzie River. So if we were dreading anything for the whole trip, it was the last 100 kilometers. The Tulita, kind of a pack raft thing is like you don't fly out when you don't need to fly out. So it felt right to paddle it into town, which is another 100 kilometers, but we also knew that paddling pack rafts on the Mackenzie was a terrible idea. So we were just going to try to bang it out in one day, which we didn't quite do, but close. And we had basically perfect conditions the next day. This is what we had almost all day long. But that 100 kilometer section of river had about 5 bends. You can see the river, it has a horizon line, so when you're grinding away in a pack raft, the time passes slow and the distance even slower, I would say. And then for those of you, what we heard in the last talk, the cost of northern flights, northern even commercial flights can be ridiculously expensive. And it was actually cheaper for us to just hop on a charter and fly right back to Whitehorse, which was nice to cut out 2 days of flying and turn it into 2 hours. And that's what I've got, Erica.